I'm Carla Reeves, and this is Differently, the Lifepreneur podcast. I'm a hyperachiever turned lifepreneur, and after a decade of coaching ambitious leaders, I'm convinced we are far closer than we realize to what we deeply desire, and it's a willingness to do differently that can change everything. This podcast is for the everyday leader ambitious for a rich, out-of-the-box life. This is your weekly nudge and reminder to take a risk to build a life that is uniquely bold, authentic, and in alignment with your deepest values. On the podcast and in my work, I talk a lot about designing your life, being the CEO of your life, being an innovator, and a lifepreneur. And today I want to give you a deeper look at what this really means and hopefully help you see more clearly what's possible. And to see what's truly possible, we first have to strip away some of the myth, some of the fluff, and the loftiness that can cause us to feel like just isn't possible for me. This topic excites me so much, and I also realize that it can feel too aspirational. And so today, let's get really real about what this actually means and how you can use it in your life. How does that sound? So this topic of designing your life has come up again and again when I'm working with clients and in their journals. And the way that it shows up is kind of like they're grappling with this idea of what does it even mean to design your life? Here's what the grappling looks like, and maybe you can relate. So this idea of designing your life, is it too good to be true? Maybe it's just for other people, but not me. You don't know my life. Is this really even possible? I had dreams and they didn't happen. Maybe I dreamed too big. My life run by others. How could I possibly design my life and manage everybody else's needs and expectations? Or it just all feels unrealistic. I went and Googled, how do you design the life that you want? And these are the kinds of things that came up. Set an achievable long-term goal. Map out your big picture plan with a series of small steps. Have an intention every day. Track your progress and make adjustments as needed. And use daily affirmations to keep yourself motivated. Just do these things and you'll have a life by design, right? Wrong. I was kind of stunned. And while these are all great standalone pieces, they just hit the surface and they don't set you up to be sustainable. And I felt there were some things missing. So that's what I want to dive into today. I never like to say build a life you love because let's be real, life is hard and you're not always going to love your life. Hard things happened. We find ourselves in heart-wrenching circumstances. This is life. However, I absolutely believe that you can build a life that you love to live and that you show up for and that feels aligned to you and purposeful, even when you're walking through hard stuff. So let's get into the 5 myths about designing your life. Myth number 1, it's not about having a perfect life. Did you hear that? Designing your life is not about having or creating a perfect life. It's not about getting everything you want or even having all of your circumstances line up in just the way you desired or wanted. It's not about getting everything right. It's not about having your neighbor's life or the life you see and compare yourself with on Instagram. And it's not a life where people behave the way we think they ought to. Designing your life is not about being happy all the time. I think this is where we get tripped up because we can set out to have goals and achieve things, and then we don't achieve them and we fail. And then we think that, oh yeah, that's not for me, or that's not possible, or I can't do it. The truth about this is that, and what I want you to consider is, what if designing the life you want doesn't mean scrapping what you have? It doesn't mean starting over. It means taking the life you've got and tapping into all of your capabilities to make the most of what you have and move forward in a different way that sets you up to create different kinds of results and experiences. It's about accepting what is and using those incredible strengths you have in your creativity and your unique abilities to move through life and influence and shape the experience that you have. There's a quote I once heard that said, "Live the life you have been given as if it is the one you wanted." Sit with that for a minute. Maybe we've been sold a lie that life needs to be perfect or that we should feel happiness all the time. I want you to consider for a minute, is that what you even want? Or does it look more like having peace and feeling like you're making choices that are aligned with your values and being really present and having a sense of deeper trust? Is that more in alignment with what you're really seeking? Take a look for yourself. Myth number 2, designing your life is not about being successful. It's not about being perfect or getting things right. It's not about setting goals and achieving them, although that may be part of the process. Designing your life is not about the outcome of success, but more about following what is true to you and your uniqueness. It's about following your heart's nudges and following them even if you fail, because they may be exactly the thing that led you to that next step. Designing your life is about getting in alignment with the life you were created to lead, trusting your inner compass and realizing that your aligned life may not look anything like those around you, and it's about having the courage to step into it anyway. Myth number 3, designing your life is not for just a certain type of person. It might feel to you like this is a great idea, but it's not for you, that other people can have this, but you don't know what my life is like. I want you to hear me that if this idea is intriguing to you and something that you have wanted to do in your life, I want you to be clear that this is not for a certain type of person or stature, that designing your life is accessible to anyone. And the truth is that we can sit on the sidelines of our life blaming or having excuses for why we can't have it, but truly that just keeps us off the hook of taking full responsibility and diving in. You can get on the court of your life regardless of where you are and what you're dealing with. And it's about digging deep into your God-given abilities to influence and shape the quality of your life and your experience of it. Myth number 4, designing your life is not about having a life without challenges. This is not about a life without challenges. That doesn't exist. It's not about the people in your life behaving just the way you want them to, or like we said before, having things line up just so. The truth is that it's about taking 100% responsibility for the way that you feel and the way in which you move through the struggle and hardship in your life. Challenges aren't going to go away. We may change situations or change relationships or change where we live, but we really just trade our problems for different and new problems. The problems don't go away, but how you show up to those makes all the difference. Designing your life is about taking ownership to alter your thinking patterns that repeatedly add challenge and heaviness and stress to your life. It is about taking ownership and altering your behavior patterns where they consistently lead to unfulfilling results, because those are things within your power that you can shift and change that will have a huge impact in this idea of designing your life. And myth number 5, designing your life is not a quick fix. It's not a once and done, and it's not a set of steps. It is a commitment. It is a practice, and it builds over time through your aligned actions. So here's the thing. Designing your life is not aspirational. It's a down in the trenches, doing the work, being a warrior for the living your best kind of life. It's a lifestyle. I fight every day for this. Some days I suck at it. Other days I don't. But what I know for sure is that it's a practice and it requires showing up. And when I do, over time, there becomes a harvest from the work. Dig in, fight as if your life depended on it, because it does. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Differently. I hope it stirred your thinking, and I invite you to take one inspired action from something that stood out to you. If you want to hear more conversations like this, hit follow on your favorite podcast app. And if this episode could impact someone you know, please share it and pass it along. Remember, new episodes drop weekly. See you next week.